You thought you were building a bond, but somewhere along the way, without either of you realizing it, you built a cage, and your dog is living inside it. Here is what no one tells you when you bring a dog home. Love, on its own, is not enough. It is not the size of your love that determines your dog's emotional health. It is the shape of it. And for millions of dogs living in homes full of genuine devotion, the shape of that love is quietly, invisibly doing damage. Not despite the care poured into it, but because of how that care was delivered. Day after day, moment by moment, in ways that looked, from the outside, like everything a devoted owner should do. What I am about to share with you today is not easy to hear, but it is worth hearing because there are 5 specific myths that almost every well-meaning dog owner believes. 5 ideas that feel like love, that come from love, and that are slowly teaching your dog they cannot exist without you. And by the end of this video, you will understand exactly what real security looks like. Not just for your dog, but for both of you. Here is the thing nobody in this space wants to say out loud. The most damaging thing you can do to a dog is not neglect them. It is love them in a way that teaches them they cannot exist without you. We've been told over and over that more closeness means more security, that more comfort means more confidence, that a dog who needs you constantly is a dog who loves you most. But that belief, that specific assumption, is the current running beneath every single myth on this list. And it has a cost. Emotional dependence in dogs is not a personality type. It is not a trait some dogs are born with. It is a learned state. It develops when a dog is never given the tools to regulate their own emotional experience, when every moment of discomfort is immediately rescued, when the owner's presence becomes the only source of safety the dog has ever been allowed to access. The dog does not become dependent because they are weak. They become dependent because the environment never required anything else of them. And here is the deeper irony, the one that will reframe everything that follows. The most devoted owners create the most emotionally fragile dogs, not despite their love, but through the specific shape their love was given. This video is not about loving your dog less. It is about loving them in a way that actually sets them free. A dog living inside unhealthy emotional dependence is not a happy dog who loves their owner too much. They are a dog whose entire nervous system is organized around one single, terrifying question: where are you? Picture the dog who cannot eat when their owner steps out of the room. The dog who destroys furniture, not out of boredom, but out of genuine, full-body panic. The dog whose body is tense even in sleep, one ear always tracking the floor, always calibrated to the sound of a return. The dog who used to play, who used to explore, who used to have a self and now just monitors, just waits, just survives the gap between your leaving and your coming back, and then shift the lens to you. The guilt that lives in every departure, the impossibility of spontaneity, the slow, quiet narrowing of both your lives as your dog's world gets smaller and smaller and your freedom contracts to match it, until neither of you has quite the life you were supposed to have. This is not a story about a bad owner. This is a story about good love pointed in a direction that neither of you chose, and both of you are paying for. 5 myths built this, and understanding them is how both of you walk out. Before we get into myth 1, I want to plant 4 things in your mind, because these are the moments in this video that are going to change how you see your dog, your bond, and yourself as an owner. Myth 2 involves something you do in the first moments of coming home, something that feels like pure joy, and it is one of the fastest ways to teach your dog that separation is a crisis worth panicking over. Myth 3 is the one that will stop you cold. It is the exact advice most commonly recommended for separation anxiety, and it is making the underlying problem structurally impossible to fix. Myth 4 removes the single most important tool your dog has for building emotional independence, and most owners eliminate it without ever knowing it existed. And Myth 5 redefines what a healthy bond actually is, in a way that will change every interaction you have with your dog from this moment forward. If your dog cannot be without you, or if you have started to feel like you cannot leave without paying a price you did not agree to, stay with me through all 5. The way out starts here. Ask yourself honestly, when your dog shows the smallest sign of discomfort, a tremble, a whine, a flinch, what do? You go to them. Immediately, you pick them up, or you pull them close, or you redirect them away from whatever caused it, Because that is what a good owner does, right? They are always available. Always responsive, they never let their dog sit in distress for a single moment. Here is what that response actually teaches your dog, repeated hundreds of times across their life. You cannot handle this without me. Every rescue confirms the belief that the distress was unmanageable. Every intervention prevents your dog from discovering, on their own, in their own nervous system, that it was not. There is a profound difference between support and rescue. Support says, I'm here, and I believe you can move through this. Rescue says, this is too much for you, let me remove it. One builds a dog who trusts their own capacity. The other builds a dog who outsources their entire emotional life to a human who cannot always be there. Research on stress inoculation in dogs. Graduated, supported exposure to mild discomfort without immediate intervention shows measurably improved emotional resilience, faster recovery from stressors, and lower baseline anxiety compared to dogs in consistently rescued environments. The dog who is allowed to move through small difficulties builds the neurological pathways that make large difficulties survivable. That wiring has to be laid down, and it can only be laid down through experience. A parent who catches their child every single time they stumble is not raising a child who walks confidently. They are raising a child who never learns that stumbling is survivable. Rescue creates fragility. But myth 2 takes a moment that should be joyful. The moment you walk back through the door and turns it into the most powerful anxiety training session of your dog's entire day. You have been gone all day. Your dog has been waiting. You walk through the door, and the moment you see them, you drop everything. You get on the floor, you let the reunion be as big and as loud and as physical as the missing was. Because they deserve to know how much their absence mattered to you. High-energy greetings are love made visible. And it feels so good for both of you. Here's what is actually being built inside your dog's nervous system during that moment. A landmark, a daily emotional peak. And your dog's brain, which is extraordinarily good at pattern recognition, is learning something precise. Departures are the prelude to that peak. The waiting is charged with anticipation. The return becomes a flooding, overwhelming emotional event. And a nervous system that spikes that high on return will spend the hours of your absence building toward that spike. Anxiety is arousal without direction. This is its daily rehearsal. Behavioral research on departure and arrival rituals consistently identifies high-arousal reunion behavior as a significant maintaining factor in separation-related distress. The dog's arousal system becomes conditioned to the departure-return cycle in ways that elevate ambient anxiety even when you are home, because the body is always running the anticipation loop. The energy you bring to reunions directly calibrates how much emotional weight your dog assigns to separations. A calm, warm, unhurried return, genuine acknowledgement without theatrical escalation, tells your dog something quietly transformative. You are always important to me, and coming and going is ordinary. Ordinary is the most underrated word in separation. Anxiety, rehabilitation. If every time a friend left your house you threw a party on their return, you would spend every visit subconsciously counting down to the moment they left so the party could begin. Your dog is counting down every single day. Arrivals are teaching your dog to dread departures. But myth 3 is the one that is supposed to solve that problem and is actually making it structurally impossible. Your dog cannot handle being alone. So the advice you found, the advice that felt most compassionate, the advice that made the most intuitive sense, was this: stay home. Shorten the absences. Rebuild their tolerance slowly, only extending time away when they seem ready. The owner's presence is the medicine. More of it produces healing, so you restructured your life, you canceled plans, you started working from home permanently. You have not spent a night away in months, maybe years, and the anxiety, it stayed. Or it got worse, because the underlying belief that your absence is catastrophic was never challenged. It was confirmed every single day by an owner who reorganized the world to prevent it. Here is the hard truth. This approach treats the symptom while actively reinforcing the pathology. A dog whose owner stays home to manage their anxiety learns one thing clearly: my distress is powerful enough to restructure reality. The owner's world contracts. The dog's world contracts with it. Evidence-based separation anxiety protocols, including those developed by veterinary behaviorists and certified separation anxiety trainers, specifically avoid extended stays home as a primary intervention. Real rehabilitation requires teaching the dog something categorically different. Not that absence will be made shorter, but that absence is not a crisis, that your departure is not a rupture in the fabric of their safety, that they have internal resources that function even when you are not in the room. Staying home is not treatment. It is accommodation of a condition that requires change, not comfort. Staying home to cure separation anxiety is like keeping someone in bed to cure their fear of falling. The bed feels safe, but the fear of standing grows every single day they spend in it. The cure cannot be more of what created the condition. But myth 4 removes the one thing that could genuinely change it, and does so entirely in the name of love. Dogs are social. They evolved in group environments. They are never truly comfortable alone, and the goal of a devoted owner is to make sure they never have to be. Alone time is deprivation. Company is always better. A dog who is alone is a dog who is suffering. This myth, more than almost any other, eliminates the single most important training ground for emotional independence: the practiced, supported experience of being alone and discovering that aloneness is survivable, that self-regulation is possible, that the self does not dissolve when another being leaves the room. Dogs who are never alone never develop the internal architecture that makes solitude feel safe. They become dogs for whom every absence is their first absence, because their nervous system has never built the neural pathways that process it as ordinary. The experience was simply never allowed to happen. Solitude is not deprivation. Practiced, graduated, supported solitude is one of the most important developmental experiences a dog can have. Independence training, the deliberate, systematic reinforcement of calm, settled behavior in the owner's absence, built from seconds up, is one of the most robustly supported interventions in canine behavioral science for both prevention and treatment of separation-related disorders. The capacity for healthy solitude is built, not born, and it can only be built through experience. You cannot learn to swim by being told the water is safe. You have to get in, supported at first, then trusted to float. Your dog needs to get in the water, and they need you to believe they can. Solitude is a skill, and it can be taught. But myth 5 is the deepest one of all, because it redefines what we have been calling love this entire time. The Velcro dog, the shadow dog, the dog who watches the door for 4 hours, who cannot eat, cannot settle, cannot breathe easy until you walk back through it. This, we tell ourselves, is what it looks like to be loved completely by another species. Need equals love. Dependency equals depth. Dependency equals depth. And if we are honest, and I think we should be honest here, many of us secretly, guiltily treasure the intensity of it, because it feels like being chosen, over and over, every single moment of every day. That feeling is not wrong. Being needed by a dog is one of the most genuinely moving experiences a human being can have, but it is being generated by a dog who is suffering, not thriving. The dependency is not a statement about how much your dog loves you. It is a statement about how much your dog loves you. It is a statement about how unsafe the world feels without you. Those are not the same thing, and accepting one as the other keeps both of you locked inside a dynamic that is making the dog you love smaller and smaller and smaller. Here is what secure attachment actually looks like in dogs, and this is the gold standard in canine behavioral science. A securely attached dog does not cling. They use their owner as a safe base. They leave, they explore, they come back voluntarily, because the relationship is safe enough for both the leaving and the returning. Proximity seeking alone is not the measure of a healthy bond. The ability to move away, and to choose to come back, that is. A dog who needs you has no alternative. A dog who chooses you, that dog has everything, every resource, every tool, and still picks you. That is the bond worth building. That is the love that is actually free. The most beautiful thing in a relationship is not being needed. It is being chosen. Every myth on this list was powered by the same hidden belief that love is measured by how much your dog cannot do without you, that the intensity of need is the proof of depth, that the bond is strongest when it is most consuming. and your dog, because of who they are, because of the extraordinary capacity for trust that dogs carry into every relationship they form, obliged. They made themselves smaller, they made their world narrower, they learned to need what they were never taught they could do without, and they did all of it for you. Now it is your turn to do something for them, not by giving more, not by staying closer, but by trusting them, finally, deliberately, completely, to be more than what these myths allowed. The strongest bond is not the one your dog cannot leave. It is the one they always come back to. Build that, and everything else becomes possible. Which myth hit closest to home for you? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. And if you want the practical guide to building genuine emotional independence without sacrificing closeness, that video is coming next. Subscribe so you don't miss it. A relationship where both of you are free and the choosing never stops. That is what we are building here.